Okay. Um, Here's a question that I'm not sure I totally understand, but I bet you all will. It's a caller from Shelter Bay asking the judges to explain section 8 of what regarding medical marijuana, something.
Oh,
that,
yes, I know
okay.
what that is.
Good.
Section 8 would be a defense to a charge of possession of marijuana if you had been diagnosed by a physician prior to your arrest, as it's been interpreted by the Court of Appeals, that you had a condition which would allow you to get a medical marijuana card. And you can raise that as an affirmative defense if you're charged with possession. In other words, I didn't have the card, but I was qualified. But you have to have seen the doctor beforehand.
I see.
So.
Yes, and that's actually what the question was about, an affirmative defense.
Yeah, there's a number of physicians writing these things up for $300 a crack. And in fact, if you go to one of their websites, he's actually got a portion on it where it says, set up your Section 8 defense right here. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's, I think,
Have you, has the advent of the medical marijuana laws resulted in fewer marijuana cases in your courts, do you think? Or?
I would say actually more. What you've got, this is an interesting issue. I was talking to the prosecutor in Houghton County, because you also have, you can get to become a provider, or you can grow, is it 60 plants, I think? Well, 12 plants per person. And I used to do a lot of criminal defense work before I became a judge. And I was talking to one of my former clients who was somewhat of an entrepreneur in this area. And growing under the legal standard here, he or she could turn out $250,000 of marijuana for 6 people. And we had, the prosecutor told me how many people had growers licenses in Houghton County. Now this person is particularly skilled at this. But I figured it out, you could grow $45 million worth of marijuana in Houghton County if everybody was growing to capacity with a population of 35,000 people. So what's happening is there's just so much marijuana on the street that I think you're getting more. And what'll happen is they'll get caught, and they go call up one of these doctors and they get their marijuana card. So, but the law is poorly written, it's virtually unenforceable, and they may as well have just legalized it rather. I think it's really creating disrespect for the law.
The other thing that we're seeing a bit of is more, we've had cases coming through the court system on what I would call ancillary crime from medical marijuana, where growers with growing licenses are being victimized of as much as armed robbery, home invasion, and people that are medical marijuana users are being identified as potential victims. So it's you know, there are a lot of unforeseen consequences that we're dealing with.
I'm going to stop the marijuana discussion right now, but we'll come back to it. We're just going to take a moment to listen to an important message. So please stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Ask the Lawyers, a 1-hour live call-in program made possible by viewers like you. A reminder to our viewers, the attorneys appearing on tonight's program recommend that whether or not your question was used on tonight's Ask the Lawyers, always seek the advice of your own attorney, who can review your situation and give you appropriate legal advice. Now back to more of your questions on Ask the Lawyers.
Welcome back. If you have legal questions for our judges, we have phone volunteers from Marquette Senior High School ready to take your calls. Thanks, phone volunteers. If you'd like to call us and you live in the Marquette area, please call 225-WNMU, which is 225-9668. If you are anywhere else in the Upper Peninsula, 227-9668, excuse me, let's do that again, 227-9668, if you're in the Marquette area. Anywhere else in the Upper Peninsula or Michigan, please call toll-free at 1-800-227-9668. So, back to the marijuana questions. Do you all imagine that in our lifetimes, marijuana will become at least not a Schedule I drug?
Well, I think undoubtedly, yeah.
Yeah. Are there any motions or movements that you're aware of in the legislature to clarify the Michigan marijuana law?
It's changed many times,
I-
due to some of these issues and others.
I think there's a bill pending, I'm not certain, that's simply gonna make it a civil fine. But I don't know if that died in committee or if it's still out there or not, so.
We have a question here, turning to the family court issues.